What's happening, everybody? Uh, this is just going to be me. It's going to be raw. I'm not going to try to do a bunch of fancy stuff. I might put some notes on the screen. I might not. I don't know. Uh, but I just want to talk to you about your art. You might be sitting here wondering how you're going to make it work. You might be doing all that. Uh, you might be thinking about doing print on demand. You might be thinking about trying to get in a gallery. Uh, I'll try to cover some things. I don't have any notes in front of me or anything. Try to cover some things. As far as galleries and shows, location means everything and publicity means everything. Uh, the one good thing about a gallery is it's established. The bad side about a gallery is you're not going to be able to necessarily do your work to get into that gallery. You're going to end up having to do what the gallery wants for their gallery. And then there's more than one kind. You have your regular galleries, and then you have they call them co-ops. Got all sorts of names for them, where technically you're renting wall space and you have to work there. So not only are you having to give them a check, but you're having to physically work there during the week, which is fine. If there's nothing wrong with that plan. That's okay, right? But you have to weigh that in, and then on top of that, even at those, there is a group that decides if your art qualifies to be inside there. So it's not just, hey, here's my money, give me the wall space, and I'll show up 2 days a week or 1 day a week to fill a slot. It's not as simple as that, but it's there. The other thing is, there's a number of ways you can do your own shows and not have to deal with conforming to anyone else's standard. Okay. I think Peerspace is one of the sites that you can basically rent a space. The problem you're going to run into is, how are you going to hang your art? Because you can't just go putting a bunch of holes in the wall, right? But you have some of those problems everywhere else as well. A gallery generally is going to create a way for you to hang your art. The co-ops, usually artists are going to have some kind of framework on a wall so that they can put new pieces in and not be having to patch walls every time they change pieces and styles. One of the problems also with doing galleries or co-ops is space. It's not like you're at the museum and there's this giant painting on the wall. You have this small area that you're trying to put all of your art, which means if you're trying to do big stuff, forget about it. But if you start doing your own shows, whether it's renting a warehouse or renting a space like Peerspace, um, you can do whatever size you want and you're not limited. And then on top of that, it's not as expensive as you think. And then on top of that, if you're teamed up with some friends that are artists or performers, you can team up together. Why can't your buddy that does music be there doing his music while your art is being displayed? And then you're both sharing the same space, but not taking away from each other's space. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Uh, I've had street space before, uh, and I will say that if you're like, hey, I'd love to have my own art gallery. The problem with that is the number of people that will walk in off the street are not very much. So if you're not doing some kind of promotion, it's not really going to do it either. Okay, so if you're not going to do a gallery and you're not doing any of that, maybe you're doing pop-ups, same thing, you're traveling, you're having to do all this stuff, you have to have your tent, you have to have a way to display the art. You might not be doing that. You say, well, I'm going to do print on demand. You know what? Print on demand sites don't advertise your work unless you're famous. Uh, Even that, you're going to have to learn to market, and you're going to have to advertise on Facebook, on whatever, right? Um, it's not just going to happen because you have stuff loaded on print on demand. Excuse me. It's just not. Uh, it can. And if you're putting enough stuff on there, it can and it will, because it's a numbers game at that point. But the number one thing you're going to have to do as an artist is figure out how to get to people, how to get to your audience. You got to touch a lot of people to find your cheerleaders, to find the people that want your work. And that would bring us to YouTube. I don't care how good or bad you think your art is, you need a YouTube channel. If you haven't started a YouTube channel, you need to. You need to become a creator, not a consumer. You're already an artist. Whether it's a musician or a painter or somebody that draws, it doesn't matter. You're a creator. Why aren't you creating? The bar is not as high as you think it is. If you haven't started because you don't have a fancy camera, you need to think twice, because you have a really expensive camera. We all have a really expensive camera right here nowadays. Some are better than others, yes, but they are cameras. They will video, and you can upload direct from that phone, so you don't even have to have a computer. It might take a while, but that's what it's going to take. The reason I say this is because you can touch more people than you've ever thought on YouTube. So when I had a little gallery show I was doing, on the best day, I would get about 20 people walk through. Most days, maybe 3. And I was on Main Street. So you would think, hey, it's on Main Street. Shouldn't that do good? Yeah, but there's Main Street and then there's Main Street. There's Prime spot and then there's Edge of Prime. And Edge of Prime was where I was, and Edge of Prime didn't get the traffic. There were more people on the opposite side of the street walking by than on my side of the street. It just is what it is. And then on top of that, getting people to even think about coming in. I was even out on the sidewalk painting. I was out on the sidewalk in colorful outfits to try to draw attention. Had signage out there. Was doing advertisements, so I wasn't just like sitting there hoping people would show up. I was doing ads. I was running ads on Facebook. You name it, I did it. So, but it didn't get the quantity that you can get online. And that's my point. I'd be hesitant to put your full art online, but showing your processes, showing works in process, that's what you need to think about. And, doing reveals and playing with the camera so that somebody can't just scrape it off the internet. And I mean, not that any of us are that famous that people are wanting to scrape our stuff. That's a problem that comes later in life. But if you have something good, a good idea, people can run with it. But here's the thing, the bar is low. There are people doing some not so great art on YouTube, and they're getting views and they're getting paid. So it's your best advertising process right now. If you're just a business or an artist, or, I mean, you name it, if there's something you're doing and you get joy out of it, you need to try to put it on YouTube. If there's something you're doing that you need people to know about, you need to put it on YouTube. So why don't you join the content creators? Maybe you like telling stories. It's a great way to tell stories. Get over your fear of the camera. You know, it's early morning. I'm rough, but I'm here. So you don't need a studio. All you need is a room, and you don't even need a room. You can do it outdoors. You can do it. So join the group of influencers out there. If you touch 5 people, it's better than not doing it at all. Okay. I hope y'all get it going. I hope y'all do good. Y'all take care.